It's summer. Time to get out. No, way out. And then do it again all summer long. Get to Cabela's Memorial Day sale and kick off the summer with huge savings, like 20% off all in-stock Kelty camping products, 50% off Cabela's Deluxe flotation vests, and 20% off select Keen footwear. Plus, save big at our Beretta Firearms sales event. And join us for our Hometown Heroes celebration Thursday through Sunday. Don't miss Cabela's Memorial Day sale.
Blog Talk Radio.
Writing your book is the easy part. Promoting your book so readers can find and purchase it is the hard part. Welcome to the Author Chat Show, hosted by author-publisher Lynda D. Brown. Follow us at www.facebook.com/authorchat. And to contact the show to promote your book, contact me at theauthorchatshow@gmail.com. Stay tuned and listen to today's show.
Good Sunday afternoon and happy Mother's Day to all of our mothers out there that listen to the show. This is the Author Chat Show, and I'm your host, Lynda D. Brown. My guest today is author Trey Dunham. Trey is going to be chatting with us about his new novel, The Beams of Our House, a novel based on the Song of Solomon, the Banner series. This is part of the Banner series that he's creating. We'll be right back to chat with Trey about his book after a word from today's sponsor.
How would you like to own your own health and wellness business with celebrities like Shaquille O'Neal, Chris Brown, Snoop Dogg, Jennifer Lopez, UFC fighters Brandon Vera, Houston Alexander, DWTS's Alfonso Riviero, singer B. Howard, and MMA fighter Rich Rigmadden promoting your business for you? How would you like to share amazing, great-tasting products with your friends and family and make extra money and get free products? How would you like to earn weekly and monthly bonuses? What about getting your share of equity in this billion-dollar company? For more information, log on to www.whatareyouyoueating.info.
All right, welcome back to the show. For those of you that are just tuning in, my guest today is author Trey Dunham. Trey is going to be chatting with me about his new novel, The Beams of Our House, a novel based on the Song of Solomon. Trey, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lynda. Great to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here on this Mother's Day. I'm assuming that you have done all of your Mother's Day festivities.
Yeah, I called my mother and sent her a card, and so I think I'm good to go for this year.
I know that's right. Sounds great. Well, Trey, since this is the first time that you've been on our show, why don't we get started with you telling us a little bit about yourself? I know that you're a writer, a teacher, and you've planted some churches. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I've been a pastor for about 15 years now here in Morgantown, West Virginia. And about 5 years ago, went with a group and we planted another church here in town. And so, yeah, that's been a big part of my life, has been studying and teaching the Bible. And at some point, some friends encouraged me to start writing some books. And so I've been doing that for about the last 5 or 6 years now, some nonfiction and just launched into a fiction kind of trajectory, I guess, with this book on the Song of Solomon. So I've been doing that pretty much full-time, just writing full-time, doing some ghostwriting for other people, but trying to do my own stuff as well. And it's been a challenge. It's a hard business to crack into, but one that I feel passionately about and have really enjoyed doing. So hoping to keep going as long as I can with that.
Right. Now, Trey, what inspired you to write a fiction account of the Song of Solomon, which I know a lot of people that I'm familiar with, that I'm part of their spiritual group. Song of Solomon is kind of hard to even decipher just as a psalm or one of the scriptures. Tell us what inspired you to write that.
Well, you're right. It's a poem, is what it is, and it's a lot of figurative language and can be very difficult to understand. The churches that I've been a part of, I was a college pastor for a number of years, and as you know, college students are kind of in the time of their life when they're thinking about romance and love, and this Song of Solomon is a book very much about that, and so I've taught on it for a lot of years, and I decided to I've written some commentaries on different books of the Bible, but I decided to do a novel just because I feel like those, in a lot of ways, grab our attention, a compelling story that have maybe some deeper truths behind them. And I really wanted to create a new kind of romantic hero, if you will. We have lots of examples in our world of people who fall in love, men and women who fall in love. And, the Song of Solomon is just a little bit different, I think, in how it approaches that. And so I wanted to create a story that had maybe a little bit different twist, a little bit different hero and heroine in it. So, but really the inspiration was, I'm around college students a lot who struggle with questions about relationships. Who should they look for in a mate? What should they look for? Those kind of questions. So that was really probably the main impetus for starting this series and for writing on the Song of Solomon specifically.
Wonderful. Now, for those of my listening audience that might not be that familiar with that particular poem or scripture, tell us a little bit about the Song of Solomon. And actually, I think David wrote that. Is that correct?
Well, it was written by David's son, Solomon.
Solomon.
Really
okay.
It's a love story, about how he met a girl, what he was looking for. She was, he was a king, and she was just kind of an ordinary girl, to be honest. And but he was impressed with her, and so really the first part is about what they were looking for in a mate and kind of their character. She even says, "I'm not a beautiful girl," but he was impressed with her character and her heart, and so it starts out with kind of their attraction to one another. And then as they get to know each other, they become engaged, and they grow deeper and deeper in their relationship, and knowing each other and having difficult conversations and turning up maybe some of the not so pretty things, that we all have in our lives, and learning about that. And then it moves into kind of their marriage, and in the middle part of the book talks about the intimacy that they have, their honeymoon and things like that. And then towards the end of the book, you see them get in a fight. They have an argument, and they have to work through that. They have to kind of resolve that, which is, in our culture, a lot of times people opt for divorce as opposed to working through difficult situations. And but we see this couple work through that, and then it really goes into their latter years. How do they keep their relationship fresh and exciting and new, and kind of reinventing their relationship over the years. And finally, at the end, we see kind of they pass down their legacy to the next generation. We see them kind of taking a young girl under their wing and teaching her and directing her and guiding her. So really it goes the whole gamut, from the time they meet to basically when they're headed towards the grave together. And that's really the goal for any marriage, I think, is to, to make it to the end, till death do us part. And so we kind of see the whole gamut in this Song of Solomon.
Right. Now, there has been some speculation in the church that this was actually a poem, a love story that Solomon wrote for Queen of Sheba. In your study, since you've kind of studied this, anything that you find any truth to that?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I think that there is, like you say, there's speculation on who this was. To my knowledge, Solomon was never actually married to the Queen of Sheba. She came and visited him and, thought knowledge and wisdom from him because she had heard of his reputation as a really wise man. But this, from my studies, it seems to be a relatively ordinary girl who wasn't necessarily royalty herself. It mentions in the book that she was a caretaker with her brothers in the vineyards, and so there's some indication that maybe she was just an ordinary girl. But I understand, I'm not necessarily a biblical scholar, so I know that there are people who see it different ways as well. But I think there's a beauty, to the fact that there's nothing, I guess, from the world's point of view, extraordinary about her, other than she's got a great heart. She's a hard worker. She really cares about those around her, and to me, those are beautiful qualities and something that every young man should look for in a wife, for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now tell us about your book, The Beams of Our House. I love the title. Tell us how you came up with the title and really what the book is about.
Yeah, well, the title is actually, it's a line from the first part of Song of Solomon, and the series really covers the whole book. So this first book covers maybe the first chapter and a half of the Song of Solomon, and there's a point in the book, or in the scripture, where the girl says, our love is, the beams of our house are cedars, and the rafters are made of firs. So she's really talking about like the foundation, the building blocks of their house, of their love and of their relationship. And really, the whole point of the first book is that what's the foundation that we should build a marriage upon? What are the things that really kind of give people a good start or a good foundation for their marriage? And she says our foundation is strong, it's firm, it's these big beams of cedar and fir. And for me, the book is really about character. When you're looking for a mate, a lot of people will look for someone who's beautiful or wealthy or witty or, there's all kinds of things we look for in a mate. And this book is really about finding someone who has character rooted, in a relationship with God. And so that's why I wanted to lift a little bit of the Song of Solomon, kind of take a quote from it for the title. And so, the beams are what kind of hold a house up. And for their marriage, it's going to be based on their character, in tough circumstances and in trying times. And that's what really holds the marriage together is a person's character, his character and her character. And so that's kind of where the title came from. And really what the first book is about finding someone with character as the basis of a good marriage.
Right. Okay. And how has it been received in the churches? Or is this something that they're able to kind of relate to, or are they kind of like a little puzzled about, because you've got it set in the future, so to speak.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I from what from the folks that I've talked to, and my I guess my scope has been limited, in terms of the number of people I've kind of gotten feedback from. It is. I wanted to write a story that wasn't just that maybe took a little effort, a little work to kind of get to the meaning behind it. It is set in the future, kind of in a dystopian society. And one of the things too, is, as I was writing this, that was just really impressed upon me is the fact that obviously marriage has been an important topic in our country, in the last several years. A lot of people are talking about the nature of it, and there's a lot of debate around it. But one of the realities is that fewer and fewer people are getting married. There's less divorce, but there's also less people getting married, period. More people are just living together and kind of foregoing marriage altogether. That's just a reality of our society right now. And so this book, I wanted to kind of project that out. What would happen, if marriage just went away in our society altogether? What would it look like? Why is marriage important? It's one of the main metaphors or images that God uses in his relationship with us. The church is his bride and he's the bridegroom. So marriage, matters to God, but it seems in our culture and our society that maybe it's starting to matter a little less. So if we kind of extrapolate that into the future where marriage has kind of gone by the wayside, but yet it's still important to God, what would that look like? And so basically there's just a small remnant of people who kind of are holding on to this tradition, this ancient sacrament, if you will, of marriage. They're still holding it important because it's more than being just about a man and a woman. It's about God and his creation, God and humanity.
Right.
And so that's admittedly, there's kind of a philosophical backdrop that I'm working from in this book. It's a love story. There's a boy and a girl, and they're trying to find each other. But it's also hopefully, much deeper than that. It's really about God trying to find us. And,
exactly.
That love story as well. So there's kind of two things going on two different levels. And I understand that makes for a more complex story. And I think something you have to maybe think about a little bit more. But, I've had positive feedback, and this is my first novel, so I hope the next one will be even better.
Trust me, it gets better and better. Right, absolutely. Well, again, you're getting great reviews on it. Now, tell us about the two main characters, the two lovers.
Yeah, so the first one is named Saul, S-O-L, kind of short for Solomon, and he's a young man, and he lives in the city. There's kind of this tension between the wilderness and the city, and in the Bible, the city really is symbolic of our rejection of God, and that's part of the kind of the philosophical backdrop. So the city, Babylon, city is kind of symbolic of that. So Saul kind of grows up in the city, and the city has rejected marriage outright, and so he's a part of an academy, and basically their job is to procreate, to kind of keep the human race going forward. But there's no such thing really as marriage in the city, and he kind of sees just the psychological impact that this has. There's a lot of pressure, and a lot of his schoolmates have committed suicide, and he just feels like there has to be another way, and he kind of experiences a vision saying, hey, there is a better way than kind of what you're experiencing here in the city, a godless city. The other main character is Lil, kind of taking Lily of the Valley, and she grew up in the wilderness. She grew up in the wilderness out, in the boondocks. And there's very few people who live in the wilderness. Most of the population has consolidated in 10 mega cities in what used to be the United States. And Lil grew up with her brothers. They were farmers. And, she's kind of oblivious to this whole other, the city and kind of everything that goes on in there. She lives a pretty simple life out in the country. Then one day she kind of has an experience and realizes that, hey, maybe there's something going on in the world that she doesn't know about. And her brothers introduce her to kind of a spiritual mentor, kind of almost a John the Baptist type figure, this woman named M. And M says, hey, God is kind of wanting to redeem his people. And she finds out that, Lil may be a part of this. And so Lil kind of gets sucked into the drama, if you will, from her place in the country. But she's a very simple girl and naive in a lot of ways. But M kind of takes her under her wing and introduces her and says that, basically you're going to have a relationship, a marriage that's going to play a much bigger role in society. So she kind of gets her ready for that. But really the first book, they don't really even meet until the very end of the first book, because it's a lot about their preparation, getting ready, they're developing character. And I that's my personal belief. A great marriage starts long before two people even meet. It starts with they're developing character. And so this first book is really about that. They're developing character, and they don't even meet until the very end. So,
wow, wonderful. Well, listen, when we come back, Trey is going to read an excerpt from his book. Again, the title of the book is "The Beams of Our House," a novel based on the Song of Solomon. And again, Why did you name it the Banner Series before we let you do the reading?
Well, mainly because, and I might have to get into other parts of the story, but basically, marriage becomes kind of a symbol or kind of a flag that, a small group, a small remnant, they want to be light in their society. They want to be a banner. They want to show that, hey, there's a different way. And so they kind of hold this up. And there's a whole group of people, a small movement, a small rebellion, I guess you could say, that starts to formulate within the city, and they call themselves the Banner because they want to hold up a different way of living from what the city has to offer. So it's really a story about this whole rebellion, and it's called the Banner.
Wonderful. Okay, great. All right, again, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, Trey is going to read from his novel, The Beams of Our House, a novel based on the Song of Solomon. We'll be right back.
How would you like to own your own health and wellness business with celebrities like Shaquille O'Neal, Chris Brown, Snoop Dogg, Jennifer Lopez, UFC fighters Brandon Vera, Houston Alexander, DWTS's Alfonso Riviero, singer B. Howard, and MMA fighter Rich Rigmadden promoting your business for you? How would you like to share amazing, great-tasting products with your friends and family and make extra money and get free products? How would you like to earn weekly and monthly bonuses? What about getting your share of equity in this billion-dollar company? For more information, log on to www.whatareyouyoueating.info.
All right, we're back with author Trey Dunham, and Trey is going to read an excerpt from his book, The Beams of Our House, a novel based on the Song of Solomon. Okay, Trey, what chapter or what page are you going to be reading from?
Well, there's a real short epilogue here, and then I'll get into, or prologue rather, and then I'll get into chapter 1. I'll just start at the beginning.
Wonderful.
All right, Washington, D.C. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Resources announced today recommendations made to federal and state legislatures to suspend all laws and regulations related to the issuing of marriage licenses, effectively ending a practice which had been in steep decline over the previous 2 decades. DHHR Executive Director David Barkley said, "The psychological, economic, and legal weight of marriage places a significant burden upon the health and well-being of individuals and society as a whole. In light of these health concerns and declining participation by the general populace, the DHHR is recommending that federal and state lawmakers suspend all policies related to marriage. Additionally, we ask that any binding legal restrictions to those currently married to divorce and separation be waived. Lawmakers at the federal and state levels, which enter sessions next month, plan to review the measure. Several states already have resolutions on the docket in support of the DHHR recommendation." Chapter 1, Many Years Later. Saul 203119 looked at himself in the mirror and grimaced. After a full minute, he dropped his eyes, then pulled off his shirt, bending, contorting, folding and unfolding his arms and elbows like a giant insect, standing as tall as his thin, slight frame would allow. He stopped, then let his arms fall and dangle at his side. He closed his eyes, then looked again, hoping that perhaps things would appear more to his liking. They did not. He rubbed his chest, the part over his heart, with his right hand. It felt warm to the touch. He twisted his lips and puffed out his chest. He was only partially successful. The left side lay flat, unflinching in spite of his effort. His ears started to turn red with effort. He held his breath and hoped that might inflate the muscle. He started to get dizzy, and so he let go. His lips broke their seal and released an enormous, blubbering gust of wind and disappointment. Saul pulled the shirt over his head and then slouched, paused for a moment. His eyes moved up and down his body. He rubbed his chest again. The scar was still there, only it seemed to have grown larger, like a knotty rope of flesh and scar tissue. He first noticed it the week he moved into the academy. It was small then, a string at best, now thicker, harder, like a heavy rope. It extended from just under his shoulder, down at an angle, and ended near his sternum. He felt it tighten and pull as he moved and lifted his arm over his head. He grimaced, put his shirt back on, and yanked down the sleeve. A knock sounded at the door. "Hey, Saul, you ready?" "Yeah," he paused. "Just a minute, I'm getting dressed." "Well, hurry up. They're coming, and from the sounds of it, they're in a bad mood." "Okay." "And don't worry, you can't see it." "Sure." Saul opened the door with a click and stepped into the common room. Aiden stood in front of a full-length mirror adjusting the collar of his academy jacket. He was tall, taller than Saul and bigger, his chest and arms pushed menacingly against the fabric. "Still self-conscious about that peck, I see," Aiden grinned. Saul reddened. "Don't worry about it," Aiden continued. "The women they put us with don't care about that kind of stuff. At least that's what they tell us." He smiled as if he didn't really believe himself what he had just said. He ran his fingers through his black, coarse hair, and somewhat satisfied with what he saw, turned to his roommate. "Where's Peter?" "In his room, I think. The door's closed. We better get him. They'll be here any second, and I don't want to end up in the tank because of that idiot." Outside, they heard the sound of shouting and boots running. Heavy fists landed against the door at the far end of the hall. They needed to be quick. Peter's door was closed, so Aiden knocked. "Hey, it's time to go. You ready?" He spoke loudly and with conviction. No answer. Saul reached down and pulled on the handle. It clicked, unlocked. They pushed the door and stepped inside. It was dark. At first, the room appeared empty, except for the unmade bed along the near wall. A small desk was at the far end of the room, facing a large window that looked out into the city. It was night, but the glow from the lights in the facing buildings was sufficient to illuminate the room. The room smelled dank. A stale cheese sandwich lay in the corner, covered in mold. "You in here?" Saul asked. Silence. The boys crept deeper into the room, the air acrid, unmoving. It smelled of sweat. "Ow!" Aiden yelled and crumpled to the floor. Saul heard a weight bar roll and crash into the wall. Aiden cursed and murmured as Saul moved deeper into the room. Aiden moaned, but Saul wasn't listening. 2 white lights appeared in the corner next to the desk. They blinked off, then on, then off again. "Peter, I see you. Turn off the game. You have to come out," Saul said. "We'll get in a lot of trouble if we're not ready. None of us want the tank again." Peter's eyes reappeared for a moment and looked at Saul, then they clicked off a second time. "Turn the game off," Saul said with some force. Aiden stopped moaning just long enough to shout, "You can't stay holed up in here all day, you know that. We have to go. So get dressed or I'm going to beat you like the useless piece of trash you are." Aiden was suddenly angry and could feel the blood rushing up his back along his spine, into the back of his neck, the tiny hair standing erect. His hand pulled it tight into a fist. Peter was strong and easily as big as Aiden, but he was soft. He did not have the malice of his roommate. Aiden stood up slowly and repeated his threat, "Get dressed, or I'll beat you bloody. Be out in 2 minutes. I'll get some meds ready for you. That'll help." Suddenly, they could hear shouting in the hall. "Something's going on," Saul said to Aiden, stepping over him, making his way to the door. "Hurry, Peter, please." He yelled over his shoulder as he left the room.
All right, we're going to stop right there. Let's stop. We're going to stop right there. Great excerpt. I hope that those that are listening log right on to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere where you purchase your books, and look for this book because I hope you don't mind me giving this away, but actually tell our listening audience what Saul and his friends, what their job is.
Well, their job basically is procreation, for this new society. That's basically what they're in the scene, kind of getting ready to go on some dates that have been arranged for them by the state. So, that's basically what they're in the academy for.
Wow. 2 things, Trey, and then I'm going to have you tell us how we can connect with you online. Number 1, first of all, I think you did an amazing job for your first novel. Kudos to you. Your character.
Thank you.
You did a wonderful, wonderful job with that. 2,
Thank you.
I can honestly see something like this happening as far as marriage being outlawed. Here's why I say this. I never thought in my lifetime that we would be a society, and I'm not making any judgments, I'm just putting it out there, where same-sex marriage is now legal. So
Yeah.
I can truly see something like this happening in the near future, where unfortunately the masses think so little of marriage that they really feel that it's just an outdated nuisance that we don't really need to be bothered with. So.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think
so.
Absolutely. I think you did a great job, hopefully bringing that home. I also hope, Trey, that a lot of young people will be drawn to your story, because honestly, right now, those are the people that we need to try to reach, to let them know, that marriage, like you said, is really like our relationship with God. So I really, really appreciate you coming on and sharing your book and your story with us. Now, quickly tell our listeners how they can connect with you online.
Well, I had Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those. My website is treydunham.com. If they want to drop me a message there, that would be great. Twitter is a great place too. My handle's just Trey Dunham. So, I'd love to just hear any feedback or questions that people have. It's always exciting for me.
Wonderful. We will definitely post that information right on our Author Chat Facebook page along with your website, so that way they can see all of your books. And again, for those that are listening, he currently has it in 2 formats. The Kindle is currently $8.99 on Amazon, and the paperback is $12.99. So, Trey, thank you so much. Believe it or not, our time is up for today. Thank you for coming on, and I think you did a great job with this. I really do.
I appreciate it, and thanks so much for having me, and I just really appreciate the chance to talk about it a little bit.
Absolutely, and when you finish book 2 or the series, please get back in touch with your publicist. We'd love to hear about how this all ends, how it turns out.
I appreciate that. Yeah, the next one is just about ready, so it shouldn't be too long.
Oh, cool. Sounds good. All right, great. Well, we're definitely going to be promoting it big time along with your interview on this end. So, again, thank you so much for taking time out on this wonderful Mother's Day to share your book and your story with us. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Thanks so much, Lynda. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Again, that was author Trey Dunham, and the title of his book, The Beams of Our House, a novel based on the Song of Solomon, the Banner series. And as I mentioned earlier, you can download your copy via Kindle for $8.99 and paper book $12.99. So for you listeners out there, especially those of you that have like young teenagers, the YA audience, this might be a book that you might want to purchase for your young adults. They're into like the Hunger Games, those type of books. This might be something that they would also be interested in, and it will also draw them hopefully a little closer to the Word of God and His message. So that's our show for today. Again, enjoy the rest of your Mother's Day. All you mothers out there, I know I'm enjoying mine. And thank you so much for tuning in for today's show, and we'll catch you back here next week on the Author Chat Show. Goodbye.
It's summer. Time to get out. No, way out. And then do it again all summer long. Get to Cabela's Memorial Day sale and kick off the summer with huge savings, like 20% off all in-stock Kelty camping products, 50% off Cabela's Deluxe flotation vests, and 20% off select Keen footwear. Plus, save big at our Beretta Firearms sales event and join us for our Hometown Hero celebration Thursday through Sunday. Don't miss Cabela's Memorial Day sale.